The auction was almost over. It was held in a dirty open market under a rusted roof. Alien traders shouted and laughed as buyers waved credit chips in the air. Cages lined the dusty floor. Inside them were alien girls, some scared, some silent, some already sold. One by one, the cages emptied. The announcer stood tall on a metal platform, his voice loud and cruel. "Final round, only 2 left. Come look at this one. Beautiful, soft, obedient." He kicked the cage where a small alien girl sat curled in a corner. She flinched but didn't cry. Her skin was a pale blue, her hair long and silver, tangled with dirt. She was thin, too thin, and she hugged her knees like she wanted to disappear. "Too weak," someone shouted. "Looks sick." No fire in her eyes. No fun. Another man laughed. The announcer frowned. "Fine, fine. Next." He turned to the second cage. Inside was a wild-looking alien girl with bright golden eyes. She stood tall, back straight, fists clenched. Her short black hair was messy. Her arms had cuts and bruises. She growled when anyone came close. "She fights," the announcer said with a fake smile. "Strong, healthy, just needs breaking in." But no one raised a hand. "She'll kill her owner," someone shouted. "She's a beast, not a girl." More laughter. The girl bared her teeth like an animal. The announcer sighed loudly. "No bids?" He looked around. "None?" The crowd grew quiet. Behind everyone, near the shadows, a human man stood watching. He had a short beard, calm eyes, and wore a worn-out brown coat. He looked out of place among the rich buyers and dirty traders. He didn't laugh. He didn't speak. But now, he raised his hand. "1 credit," he said. Everyone turned to look. At him, the announcer laughed. "1 credit? For both?" The man nodded. "Yes, both." The crowd exploded with noise. "You wasting your money, human." "Take them. Let's see how long you last." The announcer rolled his eyes but slammed the hammer down. "Sold. Both for 1 credit." The human walked forward slowly. The soft girl looked up at him for the first time. Her eyes were full of fear and confusion. The wild girl narrowed her eyes. "Don't touch me," she hissed. The human didn't. He didn't speak. He simply opened both cages and stepped back. They looked at him surprised. "Come," he said gently. "You're free now." They followed him outside the auction yard, unsure why. The human had an old transport truck. He opened the back and tossed in a blanket and some bread. "You hungry?" he asked. The soft girl nodded slowly. The wild one crossed her arms. He didn't push. He just sat on the ground beside them, looking at the stars above. After a while, the soft girl took the bread, eating slowly, carefully. The wild one finally sat too, but still kept distance. "What's your name?" he asked the soft girl. She whispered, "I don't remember." He turned to the wild girl. "And you?" She looked away. "Why do you care?" The man smiled. "Just a little." "Because someone should." They both stared at him. He didn't chain them, didn't lock the truck, didn't ask anything of them. He just sat there, warm and quiet, and for the first time in their lives, no one called them property. Rain started to fall. The human man covered the truck with a tarp and gave the girls an old jacket to share. The soft alien girl, too weak to even sit up straight, pulled the cloth around her shoulders and watched the raindrops slide off the edge. She hadn't spoken again. The wild girl sat near the truck's back wheel, arms crossed, eyes still sharp, like a hunter. Her golden eyes never blinked, always watching the man. He didn't act like the others. No orders, no ropes, no fear. That made her suspicious. "You planning to sell us later?" she asked, her voice like sandpaper. The man, fixing a broken radio near the engine, didn't even look up. "No." "Then what do you want from us?" "Nothing," he replied. The wild girl narrowed her eyes. "No one wants nothing." The soft girl slowly turned toward her, speaking for the first time since they left. "The market. He gave us food, a blanket, and didn't chain us." The wild girl clicked her tongue. "That means nothing." Maybe he wants us to relax, so we stop fighting, then He won't, the soft one whispered. I think he's different. Later that night, they sat around a small fire. The human made something warm, a soup with dried meat and vegetables. He placed 2 small bowls near the girls and stepped back. The soft girl took a sip. It was the first warm thing she'd eaten in years. The wild girl stared at it, then looked at the man. If this is poison, it's not, he said simply, taking a sip from his own bowl. She sniffed it. Then slowly took a bite. Silence. The soft girl's eyes filled with tears. She wasn't crying from fear or pain this time, just warmth. Why did you buy us? The soft one asked softly. The man looked up at her. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, I saw how they looked at you, like trash, like animals. The wild girl interrupted. We are animals to them. He looked at her, calm, honest. You're not animals, you're just treated like ones. No one spoke after that. But something shifted. They stopped near a small cave the next morning to wait out a sandstorm. The soft girl fell asleep almost immediately, curling up under a blanket like a kitten. Her breathing was calm now, no more panicked gasps. The wild one stood at the cave mouth watching the storm clouds roll in. The human approached and handed her a bottle of water. She didn't take it. You want me to trust you? She asked. I don't need you to, he replied. Then, why keep helping? He looked toward the soft girl, then back at her. Because someone should have helped a long time ago. The wild girl stared at him. I bit my last owner, broke his arm. You're not scared of me? No. Why not? He smiled just a little. Because I've seen real monsters. And you're not one. That broke her, not completely, but a little. Her hand trembled as she took the bottle and looked away. That evening, as the wind howled outside the cave, the soft girl sang a broken lullaby in her alien tongue. Her voice was quiet, fragile, but beautiful. The wild one watched her, surprised. You can still sing? She whispered. The soft girl nodded slowly. I used to sing to my little sister. The human sat nearby, listening in silence. You both deserve more than cages, he said. The wild girl sat beside her quiet companion and for the first time didn't argue. As night fell, the soft one whispered, What's your name, human? The man paused. David. David, she repeated. Thank you. The wild girl didn't say anything, but when she lay down beside the fire, she placed her knife near his side, not in her hand. She was beginning to lower her guard. For the first time in a long time, they slept without fear. The morning sun peeked through the cave. The fire had gone out, but the air still held a bit of warmth from the night. The human man, David, stood quietly outside, looking out at the road ahead. His truck was parked nearby, the back filled with tools, supplies, and a soft, folded blanket that smelled like kindness. Inside the cave, the 2 alien girls stirred. The soft one, still wrapped in the jacket he gave her, opened her eyes slowly. She blinked and looked around as if still unsure if this place was real. No cage, no chains, no shouting, just quiet. The wild girl was already awake. She had barely slept. Her golden eyes were fixed on David. She didn't trust silence. It always came before something bad. But what happened next shook her more than any shout or slap. David turned around, placed a bag near the cave entrance, and said something no one had ever said to them before. You're free to go. The soft girl sat up, confused. Whoa, what? He nodded. The road's open. You can walk that way toward the hills. It's safe now. No one will chase you. The wild girl stood slowly. You're letting us go? Yes. No tricks? No hunting us down later? I said you're free, he said softly. Stay if you want. Go if you want. I won't stop you. The soft girl looked at her companion. I don't want to leave, she whispered. You don't know him, the Wild One said sharply. This could still be a trap. David turned and walked toward the truck, giving them space. The girls stood at the edge of the cave, the wind brushing past their skin. Why would he give us a choice? The wild girl muttered. No one ever gives us choices. Maybe. That's what makes him different, the soft one whispered. By noon, the soft girl was sitting beside the fire again, hands around a warm cup David had placed there earlier. She didn't speak. She just sat, safe, warm, and strangely peaceful. The wild one had left. She walked down the road alone, angry, confused. The world was too big now, too quiet. She remembered her last owner, the pain, the cuffs, the screaming. So why did she feel worse now that she was free? 2 hours passed. David didn't ask where the wild one went. The soft girl looked worried, but he simply said, She needs space. She'll return if she wants to. She did. At sunset, her shadow appeared down the road, small against the glowing sky. Her feet were dusty. Her hands were empty. Her eyes were red, but not from dust. She said nothing as she approached. David handed her a bottle of water. She didn't speak, didn't growl, just took it. Then, in a quiet, hoarse voice, she whispered, I went to prove I didn't need you. David looked at her gently. And? She sat down beside the fire. I still don't, she said stubbornly. But she didn't leave again. That night, the girls lay under a cloth tent David set up beside the truck. The soft girl whispered, He really gave us a choice. The wild one stared at the stars. And we chose to stay. The next morning, David gave them both new clothes, simple, warm, and clean. They didn't know how to react. He taught them how to wash their faces with river water, gave them a comb, gave them dignity, and never once raised his voice. The soft girl smiled shyly. You don't treat us like broken things. David looked at her. That's because you're not. The wild one chuckled for the first time. Careful, human, she said. We might start believing you. David smiled too, not saying a word. In just a few days, everything had changed. They had nothing before. No name, no home, no reason to hope. Now they had something they never expected. A choice. The truck rumbled gently as it moved along the dusty road. It wasn't fast, but it was steady, like the man driving it. David kept his eyes forward, hands relaxed on the wheel. In the back seat, the two alien girls sat together, dressed in clean clothes now. The soft one wore a pale sweater that hung loose on her tiny frame. The wild one still refused shoes. Her golden eyes studied every tree and rock they passed, alert, sharp, ready. They had said nothing for a while, until the soft one sneezed. It was sudden, small, cute. David handed her a tissue without a word. The wild girl looked at her, and without thinking, let out a sound neither of them had ever heard from her before. A laugh, short, rough, almost surprised. The soft girl blinked. You laughed. The wild one blinked too. I did? David smiled in the rearview mirror. First time for everything. They stopped by a river for rest. The water ran clean and fast. David set up a small pot to boil while the girls explored. The edge. The soft girl knelt by the water, watching the fish below. It's so clear. No guards, the wild one said. No fences, no walls. David handed them each a small sweet, a candy from Earth. It was wrapped in shiny red foil. The soft girl licked hers gently, smiling with closed eyes. The wild one stared at hers. This is strange. Try it, David said. She sniffed it, then bit down. Her eyes widened. This is amazing. David laughed softly. You like strawberry? She blinked again. What's strawberry? Later that night, David made a small fire again. The stars stretched across the sky like tiny lights on a black blanket. The soft girl hummed while brushing her silver hair with her fingers. The wild one sat beside her, quietly chewing another candy. For the first time, Their faces didn't carry fear. David took out a small music player and pressed play. A soft tune floated into the air. Something old. Something human. "What is this?" the soft one asked. "A lullaby," David said. She swayed gently to the music. The wild one rolled. Her eyes. It's silly, but her foot tapped once, then again. A rabbit darted past them fast and unexpected. The soft girl screamed in surprise. David jumped slightly. The wild one burst out laughing. A real laugh this time. Loud. From the stomach. Eyes closed. Even the soft girl laughed after a moment. David just shook his head, smiling. "You two sound like kids again," he said. The wild one grinned. "We never got to be kids." "Now you can," he replied. They ate bread and warm soup before curling up under a tarp. The wild girl took the spot nearest the entrance, still protective, still cautious. The soft girl laid beside her, whispering, "I like it when you laugh." The wild one turned her head. "I didn't know I could." Neither did I. They fell asleep to the sound of wind and music. But not everyone had forgotten them. Far away in the hills above the trees, two shadowed figures watched the truck from a high cliff. One of them spoke into a communicator. "They're alive." The other asked, "Do we bring them back?" "No. We follow. We wait." The device clicked off, and the danger slowly began to follow the path behind them. It started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the cold, waiting kind. The wind had stopped. Birds had vanished. Even the river nearby had grown quiet, as if nature was holding its breath. David felt it first. He sat by the truck, cleaning a small tool when he froze mid-motion. His head lifted. His eyes narrowed. "Girls," he said, calm but firm. "Pack up, now." The soft girl was near the fire, warming her hands. The wild one was climbing a tree nearby, laughing at the view. Both looked confused. "Why?" the wild girl asked. "Now," David repeated. "Move." But it was already too late. The trees around them burst into movement. 6 masked figures rushed from every side. They were armored, fast, and armed with stun rods and restraints. David jumped to his feet, but he wasn't close enough. The soft girl screamed as one of the men grabbed her. She kicked, but it was weak. She was small, and they were strong. The wild girl leapt down from the tree, snarling, clawing, but one attacker zapped her with a shock rod. She fell to her knees, growling in pain. David charged forward, landing a punch that knocked one captor out cold. But 2 more came from behind. A rod hit the back of his neck. His body stiffened and dropped. The girls were thrown into a steel pod. The door slammed shut. The soft one cried out, "David!" The wild one slammed her fists against the walls. "Let us out, you cowards!" The pod lifted. The forest grew quiet again, and David didn't move. The soft girl curled up in the pod, shaking. "I knew it," the wild girl whispered angrily. "I knew they'd come for us." "Who are they? Traitors? Maybe old owners? Doesn't matter. They don't forget. They don't forgive." The soft girl wiped her tears. "But David, he'll come for us. Are you sure?" The wild girl turned to her. Her eyes were no longer wild with anger, but burning with something deeper. "Yeah," she said. "I'm sure." Back in the forest, David woke slowly. His body ached. His muscles twitched from the stun, but his mind was clear. He stood, checked the fire, still warm, and found the trail. Crushed leaves, boot prints, burn marks from ship thrusters. His eyes hardened. He didn't panic. He packed. He armed himself, and he began to walk. The pod arrived at a dark compound built into a mountainside. Cold, metallic, cruel. Inside, the girls were thrown into 2 separate cages again. Thin bars, dirty floors, just like before. The wild girl spat at the guard. "You'll regret this." He laughed. "You think that human will save you? He's probably dead." But she saw fear in his eyes because she knew David wasn't dead. He was coming. Inside her cage, the soft girl whispered to herself, "Don't break. He's coming. Don't break." That night, a loud crash echoed through the facility. Then, screams, alarms, flashing red lights. The guards ran to the main door, but it was already on fire. One by one, the lights above exploded. Smoke filled the halls. A dark figure moved through the compound with silent fury. David. He took down the guards like shadows falling. Quick, sharp, silent. He didn't kill, but he made sure they wouldn't get up again. He reached the cage where the soft girl was kept. Her eyes widened in shock. "David?" He smiled. "Told you you're free." He broke the lock with a heavy crowbar. Then he moved fast, toward the second cage. But the wild girl had already broken out. She'd picked the lock using a tiny wire from the candy wrapper David gave her. She was waiting by the exit holding a stun rod. "Took you long enough," she said. David smiled. "You were faster." They didn't run. They walked out. Together. Because now, they weren't just survivors. They were a team. The compound was burning behind them. Smoke rose into the sky like a signal, loud, angry, unforgettable. David led the girls through the thick trees in silence. His shirt was torn, blood dried on his arm. He didn't stop. Not yet. The soft girl held onto his sleeve, eyes wide with worry. But the wild one? She walked ahead, like a storm. When they reached the edge of a quiet river, David finally said, "We'll rest here. Only for a while." The soft girl sat down beside a rock and hugged her knees. David looked at the wild one. She hadn't spoken since they escaped. "Are you okay?" he asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she threw a rock into the water. Hard. Minutes passed. Then she turned around fast and stepped up to David. "You should have left me." David looked at her calmly. "I didn't want to. You nearly died. I'd do it again." "Why?" she shouted. David looked her straight in the eyes. "Because you matter." She froze. That word, matter. She'd been called property, beast, troublemaker, but never someone who mattered. She turned away and walked toward the forest. Not to run, just to think. The soft girl looked up at David. "She's not mad. She's scared." David nodded. "I know." In the trees, the wild girl stood still. She looked at her hands, the same hands she once used to scratch, bite, steal. But now, she remembered gripping David's hand in the smoke-filled hallway, remembered standing guard with a stun rod, remembered protecting instead of surviving. For the first time, she didn't feel like a creature. She felt like someone real. That night, trouble returned. One last group of bounty hunters, mercenaries hired to return stolen goods. The girls, they attacked without warning, fast, brutal, loud. But this time, the girls were ready. A blast lit up the trees. David ducked behind the truck with the soft girl, shielding her with his coat. The wild one didn't hide. She ran toward the sound, leaping, rolling, dodging blasts. She moved like she had purpose, like everything David had taught her mattered. She fought with fury. But this time, not from anger. This time, it was from love. When one mercenary grabbed her arm, she twisted free, slammed him into a tree, and took his weapon. "You picked the wrong girl," she shouted. Another charged, but she didn't step back. She moved forward, like a warrior. Meanwhile, David fired from behind cover, careful, focused. He wasn't a killer, but he made sure no one could get close. The soft girl held a flare stick and waved it near the back tires to blind attackers. She was shaking, but she didn't run. She stood her ground. When it was over, the mercenaries were on the ground, stunned, tied, and groaning. The wild girl walked back, sweaty and bleeding from a cut on her forehead. David looked at her. "You, all right?" She smirked. I didn't need your help. Then she collapsed, right into his arms. He caught her easily. The soft girl ran over. Is she? She's fine, David said. Just tired. She opened her eyes again and whispered, Did I protect you? David nodded. You protected us. And for the first time in her life. She smiled. Later that night, they sat around a small fire again. The wild girl had her leg wrapped in a cloth. But she didn't complain. The soft one hummed. Beside her, David handed them both something, 2 small necklaces. The soft girl gasped. They're beautiful. Simple pieces of string, each with a small carved stone. David said, You don't wear them because you belong to someone. You wear them to remember who you are now. The soft one touched hers carefully. Who are we? David smiled. Free. The morning sun was soft over the hilltops. Mist danced over the grass as birds sang in the trees. Everything looked peaceful, normal, like the universe had finally taken a breath. But for the 2 alien girls sitting beside the old human truck, nothing was the same anymore. The soft girl was brushing her long silver hair. Her pale blue skin glowed in the light. A small necklace hung around her neck, the one David gave her. The wild girl sat beside her, sharpening a stick with a knife. Her golden eyes still looked fierce, but now there was a calm inside them, a strength. She wore her necklace too. David walked up the hill holding 3 cups of warm tea. Breakfast, he said simply. The girls took their cups. Thank you, the soft girl whispered. The wild one smirked. You always serve us like royalty, old man. David chuckled. You deserve better than what this galaxy gave you. Later, they sat together under a wide tree. The soft girl spoke first. You never told us why you were at that auction. David looked at the sky. I wasn't planning to be. The wild girl raised a brow. Then why were you there? He shrugged. I was looking for something I didn't even know I needed. They didn't understand. So he added, I've seen wars. Lost people. Came to this planet to disappear, but then I saw you 2 left behind like trash. The soft girl placed her hand on his. You saved us. He shook his head. No, you saved yourselves. I just opened a door. A few days later, they arrived at a small village hidden deep in the forest. It wasn't rich or fancy, but it was safe, peaceful, quiet. There were a few human settlers and some aliens too. Farmers, builders, healers. David introduced the girls. They're with me, he said. They need a place to heal. The people welcomed them without questions. The soft girl helped in the kitchen, learning to cook. She loved singing while preparing food. The older women called her Little Star. The wild girl trained with local guards, practicing with sticks and blades. She became strong, respected. The young ones called her Fire Eyes. One evening, they all sat around a campfire as stories were told. The soft girl leaned her head against David's shoulder. The wild one stared into the flames. You could have sold us, she said softly. David didn't answer. You could have used us, or walked away. Still, he said nothing. Then the wild girl looked up. So why didn't you? He finally spoke. Because when I looked at you, I didn't see slaves. I saw daughters. Both girls froze. The fire crackled between them. The soft girl's voice broke. Do you mean it? David nodded. If you'll have me, I'd be proud to be your family. The wild one didn't speak. She stood, walked a few steps away, and then she turned back, marched over, and hugged him, tight. The soft girl joined in, her arms wrapping around both, and there they stood, 3 souls who had lost everything, now holding everything they needed, each other. Years later, no one remembered the auction. No one remembered the bids that never came. But in that quiet forest village, people still spoke of the 2 alien girls, one with the softest voice and the gentlest heart, one with wild eyes that once burned with pain but now burned with purpose, and the human man who didn't buy them, but chose them, loved them, and built a new life with them. not as master, but as father.